All right, Brian, Wiedey, sell me on EA Access.
Well, Rich Grisham, this is a service for $30 a year, only $30 a year, half the price of a normal game, where you can get 10% off every digital purchase you make on an EA Sports or EA game. You get access to the Vault, which has pretty much EA's entire library of games released so far on the new generation of systems. And then you also get early access to games before they come out for a limited period of time, which seems to have been extended just recently from 6 hours to 10 hours. So this is a service that launched a year ago, and response at the time I'd say was tepid. People were skeptical. EA doesn't have the greatest track record with consumer relations and their initiatives. But over the last year, I think the service has really proved itself to where I even wrote for Sporting News about how it was the best value in gaming. And this is especially a case for sports gamers because of EA being so strong, their library being so heavy in sports games. And then EA rolling out their games into the service for free to subscribers while they still had relevance, which was really the most surprising part of the service, that NHL, NBA Live, FIFA all came out before their seasons were over. As far as FIFA goes, Premier League was still going. Came out right after the Super Bowl for Madden. So these games weren't just tossed in because nobody wanted them. Maybe people weren't going to buy them really at that point in time, but they still had relevance. EA UFC put in after 6 months or so. And that's a title that doesn't release for every 2 years. And because of the lack of roster turnover, that's relevant for quite a long time. So it's pretty exciting what they're doing with EA Access. Now, the downside, of course, if you're on PS4 only, you're out of luck. Sony says it's not a good value. Sorry, Sony has made this determination for you. It's one of the selling points really now for Xbox One, because Xbox One has this great service which has all these sports games in it, which you can get for $30. Even if you bought the games retail, and I've told a few people this over the months, if you bought those games retail, you could resell them, get your 20 or 30 back, and you'd have a full year of EA Access right there from just the one game that you sold off. So it's really exciting, and it becomes even more valuable now with Rory McIlroy PGA Tour coming out next week, which means people get 10 hours of playing McIlroy starting on Thursday. They have 10 hours from that point on. And the other thing I really like about this is EA is forced into a situation. They put themselves in this situation where they have to put out a good game. They can't hide things about these games anymore because people are going to find out in EA Access before the games even release. So I think that puts a lot of pressure on them to create better games and gives consumers better access to, no pun intended, but to the information they need on whether they should purchase a game. So as someone who owns an Xbox One and a PS4, this is a pretty big deal as far as EA Access goes, and I'm excited to re-up. And I hadn't owned it, I hadn't needed it because I had all the games on PS4 already, but now I'll be re-upping this week so I can get my 10 hours with McIlroy, and then down the line, Madden, NBA Live, NHL, FIFA, you get all those same benefits with.
I can't come up with a reason why EA Access isn't fantastic, not only for the sports games you mentioned, but there's a few non-sports games in there too, right? Like there's a Need for Speed game in there. I think there might be a Dragon Age, although I could
that one's coming. On that. Yeah, that one's coming. There's Titanfall.
Right.
There's Battlefield.
Yep.
There's Peggle. There's a lot. Pretty much every other game that EA has released on this generation is already in there.
And if you're somebody who likes video games, but you don't care about having a game on day one or in the first couple of months, I mean, you could literally buy no games if you have EA Access, and if you like shooting or racing or sports, you're good to go. Obviously, it's only EA games, so if you're looking for little indies or something like that, it's different. But I tell you what, Brian, the other thing that's interesting is because if you have an Xbox One and you have Xbox Live, right, if you pay for Gold, you also get a free game every month through that service. Like just this past month, they had a couple of really interesting games. One of them, Massive Chalice, come out. Another one, Assassin's Creed Black Flag,
Yeah.
which is that's a big time game. So between the Xbox Gold and EA Access, you could spend $80 over a single year and have a lot of very valuable, very good games. These aren't 3, 4, 5-year-old games.
Right.
I'll tell you what, there's two reasons why I personally don't have EA Access. The first one is that for much of the time since the launch of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, I have been a PlayStation 4 person.
Mm-hmm.
My Xbox One really, for a while, was only my Forza player. Like when I wanted to play Forza, I would turn it on, but that was it. Pretty much all the other games that were available, I played on the PlayStation 4, all the sports games and things. When Titanfall came out, I tried it for a couple of days and realized it wasn't my thing. But more recently, that reason is no longer the case, because actually in the last couple of months I've been playing my Xbox One significantly more. I've been playing Forza Horizon 2, which is an Xbox One exclusive, which is spectacular. I'm close to finishing the game, which for me in a racing game is I love racing games, but I'm not a completist or somebody who goes all the way through. But Forza Horizon 2 is just so good. I'm just compelled to keep playing it. It's awesome. And I mentioned, I've also been playing Massive Chalice, and I've been playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which is a game I never would have bought. I don't play those kind of games, certainly don't buy them. But for free, or, for being a member of Xbox Games with Gold, I downloaded it, and I've been dabbling in it. So that's kept me turning on my Xbox One. So the PlayStation 4 being my main game is no longer applicable, because I'm pretty much probably 60% Xbox One, 40% PS4 these days. So the only other reason that I don't have personally EA Access is that because I get to do the reviews for these sports games more often than not, usually I've got the game around the same time that it comes out for EA Access. I was not expecting to do the Rory McIlroy review, but my friends at Games Radar reached out to me and offered me the opportunity to review it, so I said, sure, why not? If that hadn't happened, I guarantee you, Brian, I would have been signed up for it, and I would be ready to play Rory McIlroy on day one. So the day that I officially, get the word that I'm not going to be reviewing the next big EA Sports game is the day that I sign up for EA Access, because I want to play the game early. And 10 hours of Rory McIlroy PGA Tour golf, that's really good. Like, that is, when the early access first came out, it was only 6 hours. Some people were kind of bent out of shape. I think that was kind of a little much ado about nothing. But hey, 10 hours? 10 hours of golf is a lot of golf. You really have a good sense for whether you're going to enjoy a game or not if you get to play it for 10 hours.
Yeah, and in McIlroy, you could play each course in the game, Rich, several times in 10 hours. But if this service had launched earlier on in this generation, if it had launched when the systems went out, fortunes might be different. So many people went PS4 as far as sports gamers go. I mean, we still see that. It's really the stronger, as far as basic consumers, where more sports gamers went on PS4 because of different issues at the time with Microsoft. But PS4 has baseball, and Xbox does not. No matter if they have RBI baseball or not, that doesn't count. PS4 has baseball for the baseball fans. Now, that's the one.
By the way, that is an amazing baseball game. It's not just a baseball game. It is a wonderful game. Yeah. I mean, the show is awesome.
Yeah, so many people went PS4 because of the show and because of their friends buying PS4s, because at the time, Microsoft, it was a very negative situation with them as far as the DRM and reversals and communication with people. And so I wonder, EA Access hasn't been this huge success for EA yet. Now, they really haven't promoted it all that much. They're starting to now. They started to at E3. So I think we'll see it take off now. But it's really hurt kind of its growth, I think, not being on PS4, because that's where more sports gamers are. And I see that now. I wish PS4 had EA Access. That's a comment I get from a lot of people. And I wish, I was on Xbox One then, because then I get to play these games. Like with McIlroy, it doesn't look like there's going to be a demo. So people on PS4, sorry, you can't try it before release, if that's the case. And on Xbox One, though, people are going to have 10 hours. Now, the good thing is that benefits everyone, even if you're not playing, because you get all the information about the game. You get gameplay footage. You get streaming that people do. So you can still find out a lot more about the game and whether you think it's going to be for you. But, you know, it's a great deal, $30 a year. Or you could do it month to month, which is what I did last year. I really only cared when the service came out at first about getting that early time with the games. And I didn't care about the vault because there really wasn't anything in it that mattered to me. Now, though, I'll be upping for a year just because I know I'm going to use it, and I can use all those games in the vault just because, you know, why not at some point if I want to. And it gives you those are games that never go away. So even, you know, Madden 25, Madden 15, they're going to be in there in a couple of years according to EA. They're still going to be there. So I think that's actually really cool. Instead of having to keep those discs or whatever, be able to go back and do research with those games or play those games for whatever reason that may arise. So it's a really good service, and I think the skepticism around it has faded. People recognize it now that it's not some evil plan. I do think, of course, EA has their reasons for this, which is get people a little more accustomed to subscription models for the future. And
for our Ultimate Team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where I was going. It gets people in. You get people in to play Ultimate Team who wouldn't have bought the game, period. Again, it's kind of lead them in at the free-to-play type of way, which is, okay, here's a game maybe I wouldn't have played, and then you start playing Ultimate Team, and you end up spending money on, and EA ends up getting your money that they would never have gotten otherwise. And then that ultimately hooks people into the next game. You know, you go in, I didn't buy Madden 15. I started playing, enjoyed myself. Well, now I'm there on day one for Madden 16. So there's a lot of benefits to EA for getting games into people's hands, even if they're not selling them up front. And you see that with other models on mobile and everything, where that's their bigger goal now, is to get the game in people's hands and then give them reasons to spend money in it and then spend money in the future.
But the bottom line is, whatever the motivations, right? If you are somebody who has not yet made a purchase of a next generation console, and there are many, many, many people who have not, you know, when people used to ask me a year ago, or, you know, shortly after the launch, I would say, look, PlayStation 4 is my strong recommendation, because thanks to PlayStation Plus, you know, you get free games, multiple games every month, and there's just more people that have bought it, more people playing, more of your friends probably are on it. I'm telling you right now, it would be very hard for me to recommend against getting the Xbox One because of the games with gold, as well as the EA access. That combination for certain kinds of people that play games, namely people who like sports in particular, you can't really argue against it. It's very compelling, and in my position makes the Xbox One more appealing. If I had neither console right now, I would go get the Xbox One instead of the PlayStation 4.
You would not, Rich. You would not, because it's a baseball still. So it's the balance between the two. If someone doesn't care about baseball, Xbox One, I think, would be the recommendation. And also, of course, if it wasn't coming down to where your friends were at, potentially.
Sure.
But
sure.
It's basically Xbox One. Yeah.
Remember, Brian, a lot of people don't play online.
Yeah.
A lot of people could care less about playing online. They just want to play offline. And that's still a very healthy portion of people who play video games. And a healthier portion of people who haven't yet gotten the next-gen consoles, but will. You know, it's like the early adopters are heavily online focused, and I think it goes down almost every month is sort of the focus.
Yeah, so basically at this point, it's EA Access on Xbox One is the differentiator, and the show on PS4 is the differentiator. Which one do you value the most? And I think that's just an individual thing that people have to decide on their own when they're looking at the two consoles. Here we are, McIlroy coming out this next week, And EA Access, the value just keeps going up with every release, and it looks like that's going to continue on as we go forward.